Welcome, everyone. Great to have you, all of you here, all of you founders and CEOs of busy companies. Thanks for taking the time to come and join us in this panel discussion. I'd like to invite two of my great friends. First, Dominique Cerutti. We've been working, I had a pleasure of working with Dominique over the last 7 years. To introduce, most of you would know Dominique, especially the ones who are in the engineering industry. Dominique joined IBM in 1986 and spent over 20 years and was the CEO of IBM Global Services, drove several transformation initiatives, have worked very closely with IBM CEO at that time. Then he was CEO Deputy CEO and CEO of Euronext. Then 2015 joined Altran as CEO and chairman of the board, and really truly transformed Altran using what I call as a model-based thinking, and use that to transform the company and acquire several interesting assets in the digital and engineering and R&D area, and finally leading the acquisition of Altran by Capgemini. Welcome, Dominique. Great to have you here, and look forward to our conversation.
It's a pleasure, Pari, really, and a privilege. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Great. And the next one is Shashank. Shashank and I know each other for the last 20 years. And Shashank used to be the head of the HP product line, which was for the Verifone products. And he was also CEO of NES. And we have done several interesting engagements when he was CEO of NES, almost inventing the whole build, operate, transfer based business model, which now moved into companies setting up dedicated studios, digital engineering studios at global location. And Shashank joined GlobalLogic in 2008 and became CEO of 2012 and led the company through several inflection points and finally ending that overall journey and continuing the journey in some level with Hitachi, acquiring the company over $10 billion. A great success story, a torchbearer for the industry, and loud welcome, Shashank. Great to have you here in this panel.
Pari, thank you. It's a privilege and pleasure to be with two friends on the panel at the same time. Dominique is also a fellow IBMer. I would have been surprised if there are not two IBMers on the panel. So I think Dominique actually made it.
Thank you, Shashank.
Great. So, Shashank, we will get started with you. We are looking forward to hearing your insights on the journey with GlobalLogic. You have 10 minutes. Take us through the magic you did in GlobalLogic, and then we will start with Dominique post that.
Definitely. Pari, can you see my screen?
Yeah, you're able to hear you and see your screen.
Perfect. Pari, I'll try to actually conserve some time and we'll have more time for the M&A. I think that's the profit, right? That's what we call it. So I'll just quickly about GlobalLogic. When every CEO wants to talk about their company, so I need to actually contain my enthusiasm over here and to stay in the minutes. In one line, I have to say GlobalLogic, we are a company which we don't see the world the way it is. We see the world the way it should be. And in line, I think we create some amazing products, most innovative products, platforms, and experiences. What happens with that is creates the new service lines, business lines for the Fortune 500, some of the most marquee brands in the world. And that is the way GlobalLogic sometimes makes the companies survive, Fortune 1000, or sometimes they thrive. And that's what GlobalLogic business is all about. The company revolves around 3 Ps, and these are not the traditional Ps with all of us learn in the business schools. This is about, first is passion. We are extremely passionate. If you meet anybody in GlobalLogic or any of the clients, our investors, they're very passionate about it. But passion is not enough. Passion actually should be supported by the performance. And all the numbers, everything in the company, what we do, we measure. We talk about data. GlobalLogic revolves around design, engineering, and data. So if you are preaching to the world, we should apply that to ourselves. And we see everything which we do actually always measured in data. The performance of the company drives the pride. And when the 3 Ps come together, I think all the numbers on the screen which you are seeing that happen. We are over 400 clients, 60% of those are Fortune 1000 clients, and we are relentless about trying to work with some of the largest or the most disruptive companies in the world. If you take our top 20 clients, the average tenure is almost 10 years plus. So I think our clients stay with us, they want to grow with us and be prospective together with us. Last year we closed, and it's all public numbers Hitachi presented, is 928 million is our revenue. This year we are expecting over 1.2 billion. We are almost close to 22,000 employees as we speak right now. At the same time, our growth did not compromise our bottom line. We are around 24% EBITDA margins, and that's growing. We are 114% net dollar retention rate. You will not see that services companies talking about it. Product companies and SaaS players talk about it. But it's very interesting. It's very important that every time we close the year, we need to have a good backlog on the next year. That means if I just stop selling at the end of March fiscal, I still will have 14% growth. And that gives us a chance to be around 20, 22, 25% growth. Our collective management experience is over 170 years with my top 7 executives. And that's the way the company is structured. It's all about speed and innovation that makes us great. But yeah, I'm not able to talk more about actually Hitachi transaction because we are still in the regulatory approval. So actually, I'm a little tight on that side. We need a separate session to go more in detail about what happens and how we did it. But I'm very proud to be part of the Hitachi family. What sets GlobalLogic apart is very simple, actually. The services business is not complicated, right? The number one is that we have to define our niche. We always define the niche. If you see from the beginning, GlobalLogic niche is a core and deep engineering, going from chip to cloud to the application side. We are laser focused on design-led engineering. And this niche is the one which makes us stand out in the mushrooming services landscape. Services landscape is always huge and will always be huge. So we double down on our specialization. Number 2 of that particular part is, I think this is the one area I think I learned from my mistakes from the past over my prior tenures, that oftentimes CEOs always prepare the company for worst case scenario. I realized that some of the best companies prepare for the best case scenario. And that is the area, if you are going to be wildly successful in what you should do, all the way from companies' capital structure, going all the way to company, how you run the company. And that is with diversity across your geographies, across the skill set, across your clients, across industries. And that made companies stand out and withstand the pressure of the market as well as the competition. Next is, I think I call it what IBM taught me, is aim high. With everything, you have to aim high. That means your touch point should start from the clients. If you take clients P&L, it should start from the top line, not the cost line. Try to make the client's top line. Number 2 is, very importantly, when you're aiming any particular client, go at the CXO level. If you're really trying to transform their business in digital way, the only person who can take that risk is a CEO. Because typically CEO tenure is around 8 years, where CFO is 3 and CIO is 2. So that's what you're going to bet on. And a more important part of that side is, if you're going further on that, is a performance. I think I see many of the services company always say, we are growing, so we are not profitable. No. I think that's not right. I think one of the things which all of us like Dominique and I learned with people like Gersner in IBM is you should always, your performance will speak how successful you are, and successful people want to do business with successful executives. So your clients also want to be successful. So if you combine these 4 things together, I think you get the approach. Digital for us, we are a very singularly focused company. We are a digital engineering services company, and it's very simple. People make it very complicated. Well, number 1 is we have 8 design studios and design expertise. This helps my client to think what is art of possible. Oftentimes, even the Fortune 500 executives, they're struggling in terms of what is their future should be. And this is the area we see the world the way it should be, not the way it's today. So almost close to 450 designers. These are ponytail guys who get bored pretty quickly, and they want to do something different. When art of possibility figured out by design, then the complex engineering comes in, which is over close to around 17,000 of the people in complex engineering, with the chip level guys going all the way to the cloud and application side. And they really make it feasible. Whatever we are trying to portray, product, platform, experience, they try to make it feasible. And once we try to take that system live, then we have to figure out the viability of the system commercially for the client. And that's where data comes in. Over 4,000 employees work in data, all the way from unstructured layer to the analytics or the system of insight layer. Now, trying to get all this together and make it hum like a machine is an art. And I think GlobalLogic kind of companies, or for that matter, even Altran kind of companies, actually, they made a science out of it. And that's where the differentiation comes in between the companies which preach and companies which practice. As I said, I think we are a very niche company. We clearly figured out where we are going to play. It's very easy for us to say where we don't play. So if the client asks us the question, why should I go digital? Not for me. That's for management consulting houses like McKinsey's and Bain and BCG's. And they partner with us, by the way. If client says that you need to manage my system of record, or you have to take the system, run the systems, not me again. It's the hyperscalers. Again, AWS and Google and Amazon, all these guys are our partners in that side. We play in the very core. When the client said, what should I do and how should I do? That's the area that box we play in. And that box is large enough. We're just $1 billion company. It's a massive spend is happening across close to 18 sectors, and we only play in 6 sectors. So you can imagine how big is that box. One of the curse for services companies are we are tuned to saying yes to everything. And this is the area you have to say no to many things and stay with your niche, and you clearly stand out. This is my favorite chart. This is actually one chart where we show our entire strategy. All starts, if you take GlobalLogic 20 years back, we are a technology company. So our relationships, our R&D labs with Google and Microsoft and VMware on one side, which is infrastructure players, and on the other side with the SOCs like Intel and Qualcomm and NXP, they power our 14 practices, which are technology practices. We take those practices and apply those towards the disruptive segments in each of these industries, and you can see that. And that's where the magic happens. And when the magic happens, we try to get the physical and virtual world together and mix it. And naturally, I think that creates why disruptive segments, because those are the areas my clients get the advantage over their competition, and they create the new service and business models. Lastly, all of you heard about Hitachi. People ask me the question, how is different? And my favorite quote is, my favorite artist is Michelangelo. Michelangelo actually built Pieta, which is very nice sculpture, Jesus on the Mary's lap, as well as David statue. But he wasn't become famous because of that. He became famous when he got the fresco of Sistine Chapel and he painted the whole thing. Right? That is where actually all of us remember. Hitachi exactly does that with us. And they gave us the canvas for $1 billion company to $80 billion canvas, from 14 countries to 42 countries, from 3 or 4, 5 industries to around 10 industries. And I feel that our journey is just starting in that particular line. So Pari, thank you, and over to you.
Thanks, Shashank. That was inspirational and insightful. And we will hold the questions for the panel discussion. Dominique, will be great to hear from you. And the team will bring in your slides, and look forward to your talk.
Okay, and again, it's a pleasure to follow Shashank. We've been competitors, but friends for years. It has always been a pleasure to speak with him regularly when I was moving on the West Coast, or Shashank coming to Europe and so on. And the one thing I can really testify is that he put all that together in a deliberate way. He's not making a story at the end of the story. It was the plan. So Shashank, again, well done. And you will see I'm going to echo many of your points. So what I'm going to do with 5-6 charts is, in fact, a level set of the way I see the industry, which I call engineering and R&D services. And it matters because for the panel, we need this level set, and you will see that it's going to echo many things that Shashank has done. And by the way, we didn't prepare together. So let's go to the first chart. What I want to share with you, if we can, okay, next one. Okay, I'm going to quickly snapshot, of course, being short, the key underlying forces of the industry on the client side. Then I will try to depict what has happened over the last few years in terms of competitive playing field and industry consolidation. And by the way, 10 years ago, Pari will echo that, I'm sure. This industry was not even defined. When we were discussing with the analysts, they didn't know what they're talking about. Our shareholders didn't really understand what we were doing and so on. So several of us, like Shashank, Pari, in different positions, had to work hard to define what is the ER&D services industry. So I will discuss the competitive playing field, because it's not only the client, it's also the players and the providers that year after year have a structural company. Then I will try to snapshot something that we did with Pari years ago to try to understand at the end of the day, what are the clients trying to achieve, high level, and then you need to break it down. And I will show you the implication for the large scale engineering players. So Shashank, GlobalLogic, and Hitachi, or Altran, Capgemini. Why did we do that? And of course, why do I do that? Because it has a domino effect on the entire food chain, including the small guys, and it has to be understood or discussed before we discuss your daily challenge and where you guys go and the value that you are amazingly creating. So let's move to the first chart. I'm going to try to be short. So here, again, I apologize for being that short. The 3 things that I keep hammering with whoever I speak with on this industry is the following. It is the top 1,000 clients that are making the industry. The top 1,000 clients spend 70% of the 1,500 billions that are spent every year in R&D. So we need to watch them, the big guys. And like Shashank said, we working at Altran, we were working for the large ones because they are the ones structuring the industry. In the middle, those clients, despite their size, are under a series of tyrannies that are overwhelming, including for them. And we call that the battle of giants because they are competing with each other. It's, of course, about becoming digital software and digital leadership. It's about leveraging data in a cyber exposed environment. It's, of course, about UX and design. Shashank made the point, but it's also about optimizing the cost of the R&D, which is going through the roof, and adopting a strategy in the sourcing of the R&D, which is more rational than what used to be 20 years ago. I will elaborate on that. And on the right side, you see how fascinating is this industry in terms of addressable market and profit pool, and how fast it is growing since 2015 to 2022. It's not only the externalization, but there is a new phenomenon of true outsourcing and, of course, digitalization. So that's a snapshot of the industry. One sentence, a battle of giants. The clients are the big one, and they know what they are doing, and they are under tyrannies. Next chart. So this is it's a build, and I think you're going to appreciate what I'm doing. 6-7 years ago, when I started at Altran, I wanted to understand what was the competitive landscape. My analysts and shareholders and competitors were only European, and they kept talking about Europe. We put this chart together saying, no, in fact, there are 4 or 5 group of players, and you can define them by their industry expertise. And Altran, I think, was the champion because we were multi-industry and in 12 industry, while, for instance, GlobalLogic was not yet in all industry. But our business model was low level, to be frankly, because it was mostly time and material, and it was European. You see also another group of people in Europe that are what we call the Northern European specialists. They are mono industry, mono country, like Bertrand or IAV. It means they are incredibly good in automotive, for instance, but just in one country and in one industry. And you see on the top left of the chart, other players. Let me start with the Indian players. So it is the HCL, Wipro, Infosys, the big Indian players coming to the space of engineering little by little, and they are now most of them in the top 10. We detected people absolutely brilliant, out of which GlobalLogic, 7 years ago, they were rather small, kind of 200 million, and we call that US digital software player. And we understood that they understood something better than us. They were moving fast. So with less exposition to the industry, but models that were more pure. It's exactly what Shashank has shown in this presentation. And then we saw coming big guys, what I call the big balance sheet, IT players like Capgemini, Accenture, but also industrial players like Hitachi. So that was the landscape, but it was not yet at play. So now let's move to the build, and it will be faster. So the first big deal that has happened and started structuring this industry, the previous chart, is Altran bought Harrison, that was an American software player, and got in the top right quadrant, which was almost empty. I did that in 2017 and 2018. It was a bold deal, quite challenging for my company, but we had to do that to have a first mover advantage. In turn, next chart, Capgemini, belonging to another group of players, IT global players, saw Altran and bought Altran and created Capgemini Engineering. This was done last year. And as you have understood, we saw recently, meaning beginning of this year, another superb deal, Hitachi, industrial player, huge balance sheet, acquiring GlobalLogic, brilliant and one of the most brilliant digital engineering company, and creating and moving as well at a big size in the top right quadrant with Hitachi, GlobalLogic, and so on. So why do I show you that? Because the consolidation has started at big scale, unlike what it has done for years and so on. And I have no time today, but we can see Accenture moving and buying a company called Umlaut in Germany, which is a first of a kind for Accenture because they want to be massive and be in this quadrant. So the point is that it has started. We will discuss with Pari that the investment of the PEs, like the strategic, have almost doubled over the last few years, and this must be really appreciated, meaning this dynamic. Next chart, very quickly. You can click to the next one. Here I'm trying to snapshot what the clients are trying to do at high level, and before I show you the implication for Altran, and we can open a dialogue. In fact, 7 years ago with Pari, we tried to snapshot what the clients were doing with their huge R&D budget. And until a few years ago, the R&D spending on the client side and engineering was a kind of black box given to the head of the R&D. Now, the clients are taken in between two challenges. One is to innovate fast and really bring advantage of differentiation and separation in their P&L. It's an obsession, otherwise they're going to die. But on the other hand, they're also trying to optimize the cost of the R&D because it's really intensive and so on. So the best way to describe what the clients are doing is this chart, where you're defining what's core in the R&D spending on the client and what's contextual on one axis, and on the other axis you see what's mission critical, meaning if you fail, you're going to damage your operation and P&L, with the activities that are supporting because not yet in the P&L. So let me just take one example to make my speech simple, otherwise it's too complex. I'm moving to the automotive sector. Assume that, and you will see why I'm saying that, because, just say on very short. Assume that you are a car maker, you're working on 3D metal printing to build chassis in a way which is revolutionary for weight and CO2. So you are in the bottom left quadrant, it's innovation. You don't need zillions of engineers. You need people who understand the technology, the IP, the asset, and so on and so forth. If you are a car maker like Volkswagen and you find the way of making that in a mid-size series, you then going to be obsessed by deploying at scale fast. And the name of the game is not innovate and breakthrough, but deploy at scale so that you put that in your P&L. But because it's a battle of giants, once Volkswagen will have done that, they will be neutralized a few years after by other people. And the value is going to move to the right side and start becoming contextual, because they will not get any advantage of differentiation or separation, because all the car makers will start doing things. Why do I say that? Because at that point of time, the clients will try to outsource to providers because they do not retain any advantage of separation or differentiation. And one day, the activity will move to the bottom right quadrant, where it will be about brutal optimization. Now, why do I show you that? I know it's a bit complex. For the following chart, we came to the conclusion with Altran, and I'm done. If you can move to the next chart, that we could not. So let's stay on this one. We could not operate with what we were years ago, which would be the upper part of the chart, which we call mainstream activity. And you can see in the upper part, in 2019, 2 billion of our business was still there in 12 industry, in 3 domains: product system engineering, digital and software, and industrial operation. It is local, it's not offshore, and it is a pure labor-based model through time and material, work package, project, and so on. What we decided to do, and you will see why it's absolutely important for you guys, is we added from ground zero, it didn't exist, the bottom left part, which is now 500 million for Altran, through a series of acquisition to build what we call world-class center on specific domains, which you can read on that, on analytics, design, software, advanced network, cybersecurity, IoT, where of course you cannot redo everything everywhere. So this is another model, IP or expertise based. It's not a pure labor-based model like the upper part. And it's, of course, providing us significant capabilities and expertise in the early stage of the innovation, which, of course, matter a lot for the client. And the last thing that we added, again, through organic development and acquisition, is the bottom right quadrant, which is the offshoring and nearshoring part, where we, to make a long story short, in less than 5 years, we brought 20,000 engineers in 4 global shore locations: Ukraine, Morocco, Portugal, and of course, India. And you, of course, understand why we have done that. And I'm done, but because we decided that we could not stretch the initial model that we were adding in the upper part, which was mostly time and material, work package, and project, to do things that were early stage innovation, digital era, on the one end, or to optimize brutally the cost of the R&D. Now, I'm done. Why did I show you that? Because you're going to tell me, yeah, but that's for the big guys and so on. And that's, by the way, the reason why Capgemini acquired Altran, because they saw that and they saw it was not blah, blah, but real stuff and so on. Because if you check what the big guys, give or take, they will articulate that differently, but what the big players strategic are trying to do, it is to try to cope with what the clients try to do, which is innovate fast, deploy, digitize, deploy at scale, and then optimize the cost of the R&D, and you cannot have one simplistic model. If you are, next chart, and I'm done. Yeah, so for smaller companies, and I'm now working for smaller companies who are PE led. That's what I'm doing. Then the question is to understand, of course, what clients are doing, but what the big guys, strategic or PEs, because they're going there, have in mind. Because to create value, you of course need to align and do good for the clients, but you of course need to understand at the end of the journey, who's going to inject capital to help you get things done like PE, or to acquire you to advance their own agenda. And that's the reason why I wanted to show you what the big guys are trying to achieve, because that's the kind of plug and play and where you will have to fit and put your company on trajectory. I'm not going to read this chart. Those are buzzwords on consideration for CEOs of smaller digital engineering companies. And I'm sure that Pari is going to moderate that so that we can discuss those subjects. Pari, I'm done.